Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Britton's Hangout Hour, episode 100. I can't believe that we are here. And hello, Slay. How are you doing, man? Glad you could make it. I'm going to hop on now and see what one is talking about. Yeah, we're here. So now I'm going to be just uploading, just going to be spreading this around to the other Discords. I hope everyone is doing well today. It has been a relatively quiet Monday. I didn't go to school today because of Martin Luther King Day, but we're here, and not really much to say aside from, well, glad we made it to 100. I can't believe we're here. Aaron Hook is here. Hello there, Aaron Hook. How you doing? Hope everyone is doing fantastic. Let me just upload these to Discord and Twitter and some of these other social media sites that I use. But I hope everyone's doing well today, and I'm glad people were able to show up and hang out for a little while. I'm probably going to be here for a bit. I'll admit I generally underestimate how many people show up, so it's always nice to have people come along and prove me wrong. So yeah, thank you all for showing up, really. I can't believe we're at 100, but I've already said that. So how's everyone doing today? Hopefully your day has been quiet as mine has. Though I'm sure a lot of people are probably not pleased that a certain man got into the White House again, at least if you're in America, and probably some other places around the world. So yeah, we're kind of in a weird spot right now, to be honest. Birdie in the Books is here. Tharnall is also here. And, of course, the good bro, Jacob from Britton Jake Go to the Movies, which may be making a comeback this year. So keep your eyes open for that. Hello, Alicia. How you doing? Hello, everyone else. Let me just get done here with promoting this on Discord. I'm sorry. I know I probably should have done it earlier, but well, I want people to come in and actually see it when it's on instead of just popping in and being like, where is everyone? So, yeah, because people don't usually come in. People don't like waiting around. So let me just finish this up real quick. But tell me how you guys are doing. What are you guys reading? What are you guys all that fun stuff? You know how it is. You know how it is. If anyone would like to pop in here, especially if you're a previous guest on Britton's Hangout Hour, just let me know. I'll shoot you the link and we'll get you in. Trying to keep this to previous guests though, so even if you just want to hang out for like a minute and just say hi and just chill out for a second and then leave, that's fine too. I am just trying to. Probably not going to see it yet because, again, I'm a little preoccupied, but I'm almost done. So let me just get it in here. There we go. All right, we're good to go. Okay. So we're here. 11. Got spam accounts. Spam accounts. Sick as a dog. That is unfortunate. Oh dear, another one is a lot of sick people today. Hope everyone's doing okay. Oh, we do have a guest. Raph, how you doing, man?
Hello, Britton. How are you doing this morning for me? Anyway, congratulations for 100 episodes of this.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I'm thankful for also everyone who came in here. I see Josh from Already Overbooked is here as well. But how you doing, man? A long day?
Nah, I was smart, right? I did my stuff and then I went to bed at like 8 p.m. or something and just woke up 10 minutes ago to be here.
Thanks, Tim.
Cheers to your success, man.
Everyone is sick today. This is ridiculous. What is going on? Thank you, Sam. And I am very happy to hear that, Tharnall. And Tim, you go to bed, my friend. You take care, my friend, and sleep well. Also, damn, like what time is it over where you're at?
Here it is 1 a.m.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, you went so wait, you just woke up?
But I set an alarm and I'm going to go to bed again because I want to do my sprints at like 8 a.m.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow morning, and then I'm going to do all kinds of other crazy shit tomorrow.
I am like, damn, dude. All right. Tharnall is here, and it says, I was so sad. Now Ref and Britton are online. Thank you. Well, I appreciate the I appreciate you guys. I appreciate that a lot. um all right. I really liked Talking Stories book. I'm really looking forward to it because I like the Mentons quite a bit. Aside from my friend Jason's Discord, and it's another Discord I use frequently. I think that and Talking Story are the only Discords I really use frequently, and mine. I'm trying to get mine going, but it's really hard because, like, I don't know. I guess people are just like not wanting to play ball. I don't know.
To be fair, it's one of the reasons why I have never started my own Discord. It's like there's already so many Discords that we all are in that sometimes it's like, okay, so I know I've had this conversation with Britton, but or some other person, like on one of those, like, I don't know, 20 people that we have. Obviously it's more, but like, and then I need to go through like 5 Discords to figure out where I said that because we all meet on the same Discords again and again. So I understand why sometimes people don't want to join yet another Discord just to talk to the same 5 people they've been talking to on, all these other Discords already.
That's fair. Uri joined my Discord though, so that was interesting. I didn't think he would join, but yeah, no, Talking Story Discord's fun. I enjoy it. It's I mean, not biased here at all, but it's I'm not a moderator like Slay is, but I like it. It's fun. But how you doing, Raph? I mean, aside from recent events, you're covering pirate books. I know that, but like aside from that,
Yeah.
what are you doing? How you doing?
I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I have put the whole Mormon and Sanderson project to the side for now while I'm still in my pirate mode. But I started reading Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor this morning, and it is really, really good. It's a very, very complicated book, to put it mildly. Complicated on like an emotional level, not like
okay.
writing wise. No.
I'm like, well, I didn't think so. I only know of could you pronounce her name again? I know who she is what I'm getting at. Nnedi Okorafor is her name, I think you said?
Nnedi Okorafor, yes.
Yeah, I know her because
Nnedi Okorafor.
There was that controversy about the Lovecraft statue at the World Fantasy Award like a decade ago. Not really her fault. She just kind of was like, hey, I'm a black person, and Lovecraft said some pretty mean things about my people. This is kind of discomforting for me.
Yeah.
And people freaked out about it, as as the internet does.
Yeah.
And I also know she's written some books that people like. I just haven't gotten to her yet.
Yeah, the Death of the Author is her new one. And
Thanks,
it's
Robin.
interesting. It's interesting because it does, of course, play with the idea of Death of the Author à la Roland Barthes, but it does other things as well. And it's basically about the author of a science fiction book that becomes super huge, and about how her family and friends are reacting to that. And the author is paraplegic after an accident and obviously has to sit in a wheelchair, and there's that, and there's all kinds of other interesting things that make her relationship with her friends and family already very difficult and fraught for all kinds of reasons. And her suddenly becoming successful, wildly successful with a book, kind of changes those power balances once again. And so that's why I mean it's incredibly complicated on like an emotional level, because me reading about someone and like reading about disability is always difficult when it is, especially like how people around you see you because of your disability and how that shifts depending on what you do. Yeah, that's some pretty tough topics, I guess.
Sounds like it. I might have to check this book out because I'll admit, Raf, and I'm sure you can relate to this. I am
Mm,
really terrible keeping up with current releases, because
mm.
man, I have other books that I want to get to this year. But and Sam asked a question, which I know the answer to, but I'll let you answer it if you want.
Wait a second, I just need to see what Sam asked.
Oh, he's asking if you covered on Stranger Tides from Tim Powers with your prior.
Yes, I. So here's the thing: I recorded a video for On Stranger Tides yesterday, and I was unhappy with it, and then I recorded it again today. And now I need to figure out whether I'm happy with this version or whether I wanted to give it like a third try, because it's not easy if I want to say all the things that I wanted to say. But yes, I reread it twice last week to get it right. So it is definitely happening.
Raph, this is probably a dumb question because I know you well blind, to put it bluntly.
Mhm.
But when you do your videos, and maybe we've talked about this before, but like, do you make bullet points or anything, or is like most of your insights just off the cuff?
It depends on the video. Sometimes I make like a bullet point list, and then I try to remember my bullet points when I start recording, because obviously I can't read that list while recording. So that's where the whole like, oh, I guess I need to re-record this comes from, when I finish recording, and then I go back and look at my list and go like, oh fuck, I missed like I forgot to mention like 3 things that I thought were really important.
Yeah, I usually do bullet points now because if I just do it off the cuff, I just get irritated with it. Unless it's like like if I'm recommending things or if I'm doing like a list video, then I'll just do those off the cuff. Yes. Is it a challenging novel or just lots to talk about? I think he's talking about. I don't know
Yeah,
what
it's
he's actually talking about.
lots to talk about. It's not
Oh,
necessarily not language wise very difficult. It's more the topics are just like a lot, which is a good thing, right? And Thornall, yes, I have read The Anubis Gates. It's a very fun one. It's definitely one of my more favorite Tim Powers ones. On Stranger Tides is not one of my favorite Tim Powers novels. It's still fun because it's Tim Powers and I kind of appreciate what he does. But Declare and The Anubis Gates, I think, are better. Or the Tim Powers thing works better in those books, is, I guess, how I would describe it. So yeah, fun book.
I haven't read any Tim Powers, but I do know that Tim Powers was actually a pretty good friend of Philip K. Dick, which I think is always a very fun thing. Or maybe I'm getting that wrong, but I think he knew Philip K. Dick.
He knew Philip K. Dick near the end of Dick's life. I know that because Powers is definitely younger. Like he started publishing in the 80s, I think late 70s, early 80s. So they knew each other near the end of things. But yeah, and I mean, Powers is fun. Powers writes these historical novels where he takes sort of mysteries of history and just plugs in some magic to explain why crazy shit happened in history. And with Declare, that's like Cold War spy stuff. It's about Guy Burgess and Kim Philby and the Cambridge Five, those communist double agents in the British Secret Service, and he takes the events around their defection to Russia in the early 50s, and he ties that in with gin. Not the drink, although that also comes up a lot, but the mythical creatures on Noah's Ark on Mount Ararat and stuff like that, which is a really cool idea of sort of explaining why some otherwise unexplainable stuff happened.
Fair enough, Sam. Tharnall asks if there was one about vampires that you mentioned, Raph, during the pub. I think that was yesterday. I think
that is The Stress of Her Regard, which is about the death of Percy Shelley, who famously sank with another poet, I think, and some friends with a yacht in somewhere outside of Italy, and in a boating accident, and it's about that and how that kind of ties into with vampires.
Interesting. Because
He also has, yeah.
Because like in there, like in during like the famous meeting that was between him and Mary Shelley and Lord Byron and that doctor friend of theirs who also wrote from time to time. Didn't one of them write something about vampires? I forget who it is.
They yes, of course. That's kind of where the idea comes from, right? That's how that works. I mean, Mary Shelley obviously wrote Frankenstein, and someone else wrote like a vampire story. And so Tim Powers goes like, well, what if they wrote that vampire story because vampires are real in my version? And then maybe that explains why that boat sinks later on and stuff around that. So
So
that's
are you saying that Tim Powers was like the Lavi Tidar before Lavi Tidar became like a thing?
no, they're different in a lot of ways, I would argue. They do different things, but they also, I mean, what both do is like certainly sort of like mix up different genres in all kinds of ways. And there's one of his latest ones that I'm really excited to read later this year is My Brother's Keeper, which is about Emily Bronte and werewolves and Wuthering Heights. So
Slay
that's
asked if you've read Altered Carbon.
I have read Altered Carbon.
Did you like it, or did you not like it, or are you mixed on it? I don't know.
It's like it's been ages since I read it. I did enjoy it back then. I did enjoy the entire trilogy back then. I don't know what I would think about it now. I think I would still, at least enjoy aspects of it. But it's been like 10 years at least, more like 15 years since I read that. So I read his fantasy stuff afterwards, which I still very much enjoyed. Like The Steel Remains is an insanely good book. And I've read his other books, what's it called? 13 or Black Man. I think that's depending on where you live, because it was released under 2 titles in the US and the UK. And then I've read Thin Air, which is sort of a follow-up and takes place on Mars. And I've read whatever the one is with cars where they basically where they negotiate family business mergers by destruction derbies. I just can't remember the name right now. It's a very satirical sci-fi anti-capitalist novel.
Well, all I've heard about The Steel Remains, Sam, is from Raph mostly, and I heard that it's pretty dark and it's actually pretty good, and there's a lot of gay sex in it. So I'm like, all right, yeah. Which I'm, that I
Yes,
mean,
The
I'm
Still
not
Remains is pretty dark. It's pretty good though.
not to snicker at gay sex. I mean, gay sex is a thing,
That's not the darkness in The Steel Remains.
Well, I didn't think so. I've just heard there's a lot of gay sex in it, or there is some of it anyway.
There is a gay sex in it as well, yes, but there's also slavery, and there is
Slavery's not fun.
no. And it's technically sort of also a sequel to Altered Carbon in an obscure sort of multiverse kind of way, I think, which is just fun. But yeah, now I need to remember what that fucking book was. Morgan's book was with the Destruction Derby.
That's I was gonna mention Marlon James. I'm like, you know what? I'm not. It would be on brand for me, but like, I'm not. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that today. Too much anyway. There is a lot of gay sex in Marlon James's book too. I've only read 2 of them, but I'm going to read 3 actually if I get to Brief History of 7 Killings this year. But there's a lot of gay sex in it. So
there's also gay sex in Brief History of 7 Killings.
I'm not shocked. And the august Miss Jerry joins us, the kitty cat. She's come to judge my reading list. Nope, she's like, nope, I want to sit down now. Yeah, I finished The Broken Sword. I think I told you that last night.
Yeah.
Well, last night my time anyway. I am still on Yiddish Policeman's Union, and I started Essex County by Jeff Lemire, which is a comic. Well,
yeah.
Yeah, so it's always fun. I'm still enjoying. I'm trying to focus on Yiddish Policemen's Union for the rest of the month because I kept getting distracted with other books and school and all that just started. So I'm trying to kind of buckle around.
Hmm. Oh, it's called
Um,
Market Forces, the Richard K. Morgan book.
Sam asks if you've read Aspect Emperor because I know you read the other books of that. Let me
Yes, I am going to continue with Aspect Emperor. So the thing with Aspect Emperor for me for the longest time was that for capitalism reasons, books 1, 2, and 3 of the Aspect Emperor series were region locked as audiobooks. I could only get book 4, which kind of makes the whole reading this a bit more difficult. But since I have now found a way to get to previously region locked books, I can now finally access books 1, 2, and 3 of Access Aspect Emperor as well. So
Yeah,
I am going to read those.
I was about to say I remember you you liked a lot about it, but there were things that kind of irritated you about it, if I recall right.
There's a lot of stuff that I find irritating about Prince of Nothing.
Oh,
and a lot of people have told me that reading Aspect Emperor might shift my perspective there because it kind of continues to evolve these like topics. Although I think on the main theme of the whole thing, I will still disagree with Backer because I've looked at some of his academic papers, and yeah, he completely denies the existence of free will. That's just like something that he does on a philosophical level in his stuff that was supposed to become his philosophy PhD, which he never finished. And on that level, I guess our Scott Baker and me have the same level of qualification in that we've never finished our philosophy PhDs. but yeah.
Slay says Oki needs to read Lock and Key. You know, I've been kind of wary of it because I'm like, you know, I've seen bits of it, and they have the town. It's literally called Lovecraft, and I was just like, man, that's really on the nose, and that kind of rubs me the wrong way. But I would like to read it at some point. And Barnall asked, what is Yiddish Police Union about? Yiddish Policemen's Union. It's union. It's this book. It's a alternate history where the Jewish people went to Alaska instead of Jerusalem, or if I recall right, they actually did go to Jerusalem, but they got forced out.
Some went there and got forced out, and there was a plan to settle. Like that's sort of where the history springs from, right? There was a plan to settle Jewish refugees from Europe after 1945, not in Palestine, which technically they weren't allowed to go to at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, settled them in Alaska, which obviously never got adopted. But in this version of history, it gets adopted. They get to live there for 50 years. They get like a land lease, basically. And it takes place in that Jewish city of Sitka, Alaska, in like a couple of months before that lease on the land runs out. And you follow mostly 2 police officers, Meyer Landsmann and Berko Shemitz, while they are trying to solve a murder, which they are not supposed to solve. But, it's a police procedural hard-boiled kind of story.
I said they're partners and also cousins.
That too. And then it kind of goes from there. It's a interesting alternate history that has some interesting things to say about the relationship of, say, America to Jews and Jewish projects in the Middle East. So there is a dimension in there that rings very close to home still and today, possibly more today than 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's also very Jewish, but also Michael Chabon is Jewish, and Amazing Adventure Cavalier and Clay was pretty Jewish. So I mean, it's kind of par for the course, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Chabon is Jewish American and has written a lot about like the experience of being Jewish in America, obviously in Cavalier and Clay, and in other books. So this kind of makes sense. He also
I know, right?
co-edited like a collection of stories and essays with his wife on the Israeli occupation of the West Bank. So he's not necessarily a huge fan and supporter of certain Israeli imperial projects, colonial projects, or whatever you want to call it, in the Middle East, to put it mildly.
Yeah, I'm actually friends with a guy who's pretty hardcore Zionist. I'm like, damn, dude.
Michael
Like,
Chabon is not a hardcore Zionist.
No. I'm not saying Michael Chabon is. No, I'm talking about one of my friends. He's a hardcore Zionist. I'm like, damn, dude. Like, calm down.
Is he Jewish, though?
I think he is. Yeah.
Okay, because there's a lot of like Christian Zionists at least in those parts of American politics at the moment that have just again come back into power that are very much in favor of, say, Jews living in Palestine and that area for some troubling reasons that involve, say, the rapture and the idea that then all those Jews need to die except for the 144,000 that get to convert to Christianity, which is one of those really weird things where, like, yes, we're Christian Zionists, also we're still pretty fucking anti-Semitic at the same time.
Slay, I think you would appreciate The Amazing Adventures of Kathleen Clay. I mean, I don't know how much you appreciate like the history of Golden Age of comics, but I think you would appreciate that book a lot. I know I did. I mean, I know Raph likes it too, even though I don't think you read a lot of comics as much as I do.
I don't, but I think it's an interesting book there.
Oh,
I did. What did you think about The Plot Against America? I know Britton didn't like it. I think it's a really interesting and good book.
I have very complicated feelings about The Plot Against America because it's like I generally don't like Philip Roth because he's just one of those like. For me, it's kind of like, have you ever read the Rabbit Angstrom books?
I have not.
No? Okay, then he's not going to know what I'm talking about. It's basically like, it just kind of, some of his other books I tried, it's just like, it's like white guys angsting about,
yeah.
and stuff. Now, The Plot Against America, not so much. Like, the alternate history actually is interesting. It's just everything else wasn't for me, just, personally speaking.
Yeah, I think it worked for me because I had read, nonfiction stuff about, say, the rise of Nazi sympathies and so forth in the 1930s in America before, so I could reading a book that kind of plays with that kind of history element of history was interesting to me.
I did learn though that Charles Lindbergh was a massive jerk and also a huge racist who kind of dug the Nazis a little bit. Just like, this dude's an ass. Jesus.
Yeah. That's the point. Like that part of Plot Against America is fairly close to historically accurate in a lot of ways. So yeah,
He already owes the company. All right. Well, I mean, hopefully you enjoy it. But yeah, Jared's here. He's saying good evening, everyone. Let's see here.
Hey, Jared, how you doing? Yeah, but yeah, I can understand that sentiment, Thornall. Yeah, I read Plot Against America last year in May when I read a bunch of like alternate history books all at the same time for reasons. And I reread Yiddish Policeman's Union back then, and I read Cahokia Jazz, which is very close to, in structure, very similar to Yiddish Policeman's Union, and another really good book.
But I like Yiddish Policeman's Union though. I mean, it's a lot more fun to read than Roth, because again, Roth just kind of I hate saying this. It makes me sound like bad, but don't take this the wrong way, but it's just like it's too like Jewish, like it's too like it's like neurotic, and you're just like, God, like I don't want to read this, I don't hate Jewish people, but I'm just saying, it's like that. It's like that Woody Allen kind of thing, You see, like it's why I have a hard time watching the Woody Allen movies with him in it. It's like, God, it's so neurotic. Like, just stop. Leland is
Well,
also
but I
here.
think, I mean, I'm obviously not Jewish and not living in America, but I think that is or has often been a part of, depending on which how much of a Jewish community within America you live in, that level of neuroticism is kind of part of that American Jewish identity in a lot of ways.
The Iron Dream's interesting. It's like, what if Hitler was a pulp writer? Like, that's fun, you know? It's like, that's
Yeah.
fun and probably doesn't piss off a lot of people.
The Iron Dream by Spinrad comes up a lot in Speculative Whiteness by Jordan S. Carroll, which I'm currently reading.
Though it is one of those kind of one of my issues with the new wave is that sometimes they kind of experimented for the sake of experimenting. So, you know, not saying that the Iron Dream is one of those books, but yeah, it's an interesting one.
I've wanted to read The Iron Dream. It obviously does not exist in an audiobook version. I'll have to see where I can get it, but yeah. Certainly a book worth reading, I think.
Yeah, no, it's just it's interesting because, you know, I read Harold Bloom's stuff, or he read like an article where he was ranting about Stephen King getting a National Book Award, which I didn't agree with. I think Stephen King's a pretty good writer, but he mentioned there were 4 writers that he thought were really good living American authors, at least at the time. Roth and Cormac McCarthy are now dead. I've only read 3 of them, and I've liked 2. I've liked Pynchon and Cormac McCarthy, and Roth I'm just kind of like, yeah. And Don DeLillo, I would like to try him at some point. I just don't know where to start.
White Noise? I mean,
White
that's
Noise,
the one that
probably.
usually...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, no, I mean, it's you know, it's kind of where we're at the moment. But yeah, no, it's but yeah, the other book I'm reading, Year of Lemire, is on for those who are paying attention to that. But yes, I'm reading Essex County by Jeff Lemire. It's his first, well, not his first, but it's the one that really blew him up, and it's basically it's him doing what he does very well, which is you know, he does like small town Canadian kind of exploration. It's kind of bleak, but there's also like a lot of warmth as well. It's really, he does slice of life very well. I'll say that. I was gonna say it's not really Americana, but it's kind of like Americana, except it's in Canada. I know you're not really an Americana fan, Raph, because you know you're in Germany.
Yeah, I mean, I find it difficult to connect to the nostalgia that kind of comes with a lot of Americana, because I don't have that, and I'm too young to have gotten it through like the media. Because if you look at some like German movie productions and stuff from the 60s and 70s, they were like very, very much into reproducing and projecting certain elements of Americana into for like a German audience. But obviously I did not grow up on movies from the 60s and 70s. I'm too young for that. So it just never really got to me. And when I'm reading something like the Kennedy book by Stephen King, which everyone loves, and I'm like, it doesn't work for me, Stephen. I'm just fucking bored out of my mind by all these annoying people, and then you make so many fucking inconsistency errors in the book that no editor ever picked up, because probably no one will edit your books anymore because you're too big for that, and that just pisses me off.
That just hurts my soul, Wrath. But you know, it's kind of funny. Tori made a video earlier today. Tori Talks, for anyone, for like the 5 people who probably don't know what that is, who she is anyway. She made an interesting video today about oh dang it, what was it? I'm forgetting already. What's wrong with me? I'm 23, Wrath. I should know this like that, and I forgot already. It's ridiculous. Let me look at it. I commented. It says, your favorite author is not a god. Now, before you think, Britton, authors aren't gods. Thank you, Slay. Now, before people think this is about the Neil Gaiman situation, it's not. Just kind of a really funny coincidence there. But you made a really interesting video about like people disagreeing on books, and it really made me think about I'm actually hoping to make a video on a similar subject soon. So it was kind of interesting that came out.
I
Uh,
haven't watched it yet.
but basically, it's about like, look, I get people are passionate about books that they love, but that does not mean the author is gonna, bang out gold every single time. And I'm like, you know what? That's a fair point.
Yeah, that it's not exactly a huge point.
I'm sure you'll probably shoot holes into it. I mean,
No. I think the problem there for me is why I'm like, well, so what? Is that I've also been very active in, say, the heavy metal scene for the last 20 years, right? And at some point, if you're like actively following music, and you eagerly await the next album of your favorite band, and you kind of realize that, and I think maybe with music it happens faster because a lot of bands put out albums much on a higher rate than authors put out books and so forth. So you get used to the understanding that like a catalog of an artist will vary in quality. It's just like something that you can't look at all those Iron Maiden albums and go, no, they're all masterpieces.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of. I was actually talking with someone about this the other day. I think it was actually about Jeff Lemire actually,
Mhm.
and I'm like, look, he puts out a lot. He like cranks them out Stephen King style. Like, if you put stuff out prolifically, there are bound to be some of them that won't land. Or that's just how I see it. I don't know if other people view it that way, but that's just kind of, I'm not really. It's funny. Tharnell asked what Americana was, and it's kind of hard to put into words. Like, I guess you kind of have, but yeah, I think that's a good explanation of it. Is Americana is broadly associated with anything American culture, basically. Like,
I think to go back to Neil Gaiman for a second, American Gods is very much an outsider, in this case, a person from the UK, trying to explore Americana by having the main character do these like long road trips through America, looking at all these things that are sort of quintessentially American by being weird, slightly weird.
yeah, that's about right. It's kind of, if you don't mind me going on a bit of a non sequitur, which is kind of my
Sure.
skill. I always get irritated when authors make like dumb or bad decisions. Maybe not dumb decisions, sometimes dumb decisions, but bad decisions as well. And then I hate when the people come out and go, "Oh, he was never that good anyway." Like,
Yeah.
fuck you. Like, fuck you. That's as bad as like fucking Larry Correa on Twitter going like, fuck you, I don't know. I don't like Larry Correa's Twitter feed. I'll put it that way. I think he's fucking like, Larry, shut the fuck up about things you don't understand and want to fucking talk about, like George R. R. Martin. Like, fuck you.
He hates George R. R. Martin ever since the whole Sad Puppies thing.
Yeah, I get that. Indeed, I'm glad. I'm like, and there was someone who was getting mad at, and they're like, "Oh, he ripped off Tanith Lee. He sucks." And I'm like, okay, first of all, if you want to get mad at him for ripping off anybody, get mad at him for ripping off Alan Moore, because those first couple of Sandman issues totally ripped from Alan Moore. Like, come on. Like, it isn't until the death issue that he really comes into his own in that series. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, just, yeah, sorry. I'm sure you can tell I'm still a little raw about that situation, Raph. Anyway, enough on that rant. But yes, I think you make that's a good point about American Gods, though. It's a good exploration of Americana from a different perspective, we'll say.
Yeah, well, I guess the trick is to follow non-American authors that are extremely political. Then you kind of balance it out.
Yeah, no, God, like seriously, like it's like, oh God, fucking Razor Fist was going on, and he was all like, "Oh, maybe we should check out Alan Moore because he wrote fucking Lost Girls." Like, Razor Fist, you're fucking stupid. You should shut the fuck up because you clearly don't understand fucking Alan Moore at all, based on the slander you said about him, because you lied about fucking him ripping on Steve Ditko in that thing he because that documentary he was on, even though he was talking about Rorschach and not fucking Steve Ditko at all. So Razor Fist, shut the fuck up and go off in your fucking weird fascist dictator shit. Like, shut up. I fucking hate Razor Fist. It's just, that shit annoys me, is all I'm saying. Sorry, a bit of a non sequitur.
No, totally fine.
I'm sure you're very amused by me getting angry, though. So
I'm totally fine with it. I'm slowly going through the Dark Throne conversation in chat, and I'm like, I have not necessarily followed Dark Throne that much the last couple of years. I do in general really enjoy their more like rock and roll side of stuff that happened like all the way after around like Fuck Off and Die and Too Old, Too Cold, when they kind of switched into that style. I do enjoy that. I once was at a festival in Oslo where Fenris did in fact do the DJ during the changeover times, which was really fun in like a old like high school gym. Pretty obscure. That was pretty cool.
I'm just like, man, I don't know. With Stephen King, I'm just like, like like he's always been that political. Like if you read some of his books, like the whole point is like deconstructing like small town America. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying, Slay. It's kind of,
I mean, I look at Stephen King and I'm like, Stephen King's not very political. He's as milquetoast liberal as it gets, right?
Oh, there's a couple of his books. Under the Dome gets pretty angry. Even though I think that's one of his
I do agree that like even if you read The Gunslinger, the descriptions of New York in the first parts, like when you have the boy's perspective for the first time before he, in just in The Gunslinger, those are so much more angry than something like the way he describes small town America in the Kennedy book. I always get the date wrong because who cares when presidents get assassinated? It happens all the time. It's not exactly a big deal, right? No, is it 11/22/63, something like that?
Yes,
yeah, that one. So yeah, that one is and there's a difference. Maybe it's the lack of cocaine. Maybe we need to give Stephen King more cocaine to get him back to writing angry books. I don't know
about that because apparently it got so bad he didn't even know he wrote Cujo. Like he can't even remember it. I'm like, that is freaking crazy.
That's just rock and roll. There's enough musicians out there who don't remember recording songs and go like, well, apparently I did that.
I was about to say maybe that doesn't impress you because I mean, man, those metal bands back in the day, they got pretty crazy. Like,
well, they're like the hard rock bands too. Like generally bands in the 70s, no matter which genre, did get don't know like just look at Fleetwood Mac for a band that definitely did not remember a lot of the things they did in the 70s.
Yeah, no, or Motley Crue, which literally I think their book literally references the fact how much drugs they did back in the day.
Oh, the dirt is pretty. The dirt is pretty fucking brutal. Yeah.
Like, damn, dude. So much drugs. Like, what is I don't know if you've watched To the Ramble Raft, but I actually watched their video today about art and depression, which I thought was really interesting. Kind of that because it was kind of reminding me of that conversation we had the other day about like the whole tortured artist thing.
Yeah.
Which I thought was which is really I thought it was really fascinating. Mm-hmm. Now, do I think you have to be a certain kind of tortured individual to make great art? No. I mean, what's what's an artist who's generally a pretty well-adjusted individual? You know what? We'll take John Scalzi. I haven't read any John Scalzi, so take this with a grain of salt. But from what I've seen on his Twitter and Blue Sky, because he doesn't really use Twitter anymore, he seems like a generally well-adjusted, sane, not problematic individual, unless I am proven wrong at some point soon. Hopefully not, because again, he seems like a normal guy. But I do feel on some level like, I don't know. It's kind of hard, and they kind of were going in circles about this as well. About you know, God, what is it? Like, there's some part of you that kind of has to be wrong in order to write, I guess. I don't agree with that idea, but it's kind of something it interests me. I'll put it that way. I don't know if I think you have to be like, or you know what? I'll take like I'll take my friend Jason, for instance, who's in the comment section. Again, pretty well-adjusted individual. He doesn't seem like he has any, unless there's like some secret trauma he isn't telling us about, but like he seems like a well-adjusted individual. And I don't know the point I'm making here anymore, but I don't think you have to be tortured to make great art. But for some reason, a lot of tortured people create good art.
I think what you need to do, it depends on the kind of art you're going for. That I think is an important thing, right? Like there's certain, like if you go back to music for a moment, there's stuff you can only, or it's easier to write certain kinds of songs when you're 16 and angry at everything, because that's kind of part of being 16. And that's why a lot of punk bands, for example, write their best stuff when they're young, because you need, like, your worldview and the style of music kind of are closer together at that age than they are when you're 50 and married with 3 children. That's not when you can sing "Fuck the System" with the same level of commitment that you have when you're 16. Just because you've lived through more stuff, you have, maybe realized that there is nuance to these kind of things in a way that you don't necessarily care about when you're 16. And that's, I think, one thing. When it comes to art, it's like...
John is here. John Stevenson is here. Nice. Hello, man. How you doing?
I think a large part is like accessing like your inner sort of like emotions in a somewhat raw way. And I think that can be easier for certain emotions when you are in, as John said, like in a heightened emotional state, or have certain extremer like personality traits in some way or form that can make it easier to sort of access that and put out that emotion, because putting out emotions is always scary in the world. Like, we live in a world where understatement is somewhat prized, right? We don't usually try to share all our emotions, even like the more extreme ones, with the public. That's normally not what we do in a lot of ways. But that's something that is required when you do art. You put yourself out there, you make yourself vulnerable. And I think if you are in either an emotionally heightened state, or if you are like an more extreme personality in one way or another, you care less about that. It takes away some of these inhibitions that most of us have by growing up. And I think that's where the whole like tortured artist thing kind of comes from, because these people often care less about what happens to the thing they put out than someone who is, worried about what their colleagues might think, what their parents might think, what their family might think when they read the book that you just wrote. But like, if you're already angry or very sad or very something else emotionally, then you don't care that much.
Jason, I'm so sorry if you watch this later. I'm not trying to say you're anyway. No, I think you're onto something, Raph. I don't know how this stuff works. I mean, am I a generally tortured individual? I don't think so. I have a bunch of shit that's wrong with me. Like I have anxiety and depression. That fucking sucks. There's actually a line from David Lynch, who recently passed away, and he kind of made the point, like, maybe it wasn't like Van Gogh's mental illness that made him kind of that made him like that. Maybe it was just, that was like, painting was his way of just dealing with it. I'm like, man, you're on to something, David.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm not saying that. Now, I do think that if you're going to create art of any kind, you have to have like some empathy, at least, because like, some artists who've done bad things, like, whoa, that's fucking sociopathic, man. I'm like, I don't know about that. It's pretty bad, but I think you have to have some kind of empathy if you're gonna create something.
I mean, the thing with empathy is what empathy is just your ability to put yourself in
Thanks,
someone
PL.
else's place. That does not necessarily come with a value judgment. You can be really good at putting yourself in someone else's place and then do fucked up things with that ability. Those two things, it is just like that in our world, we often sort of like
I
see
would like
empathy
that,
as a
PL.
good thing, period. And it's what you do with your empathy that makes it a good thing or a bad
Also,
thing.
who are you rooting for, PL? If you're still here and want to share real quick before you go. I think he's talking about the football game. I'm not sure. But sorry, Raph, didn't mean to interrupt you. Oh, take care, PL. It was good seeing you.
I don't even know what championship you're talking about.
I think he's talking about the national the football or American football one that's on tonight, but I'm not sure. Oh, the August Miss Jerry wants in, so I'll let her in real quick. Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, college football. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, that's what I think, but I could be mistaken on that. No, but like I guess my one of my points is I think you have to be like somewhat empathetic to do art. Is what I was getting at.
Yeah, I think so.
Even if you'll do really bad things from time, I think that's just it's like, and again, people throw out like terms like sociopath and narcissist so easily. I'm like, guys, you don't have to be sociopathic or narcissistic to do bad things. Okay?
No. I think it's one of those things that just like social media on the one hand, the rise of like self-help culture, and a general acceptance in at least larger parts of society that psychology is a real thing, and that psychological terms could be helpful, has kind of led to that moment where everyone diagnoses everyone else with all kinds of conditions and flings around
Yeah,
terminology in
exactly.
ways that is no longer
T-Baggins.
helpful.
I think T-Baggins puts it well. There's some real bastards that have an artistic side. I can tell you, man, like there's some people. I was in choir for 2 years when I was in high school. There are some of the biggest jerks you will ever meet in your life in that class that I've met. But man, they were really good at like singing,
Yeah, I mean, like if you do that kind of art, the kind of art that means you actually have to get up in front of in front of people and perform. That means you have to have some form of extroverted side to you, and that can lead to all kinds of tack on problems later down the road in a way that you do not necessarily have to be like extroverted if you're a writer. Like a lot of writers seem to be more on the introverted side of things. Whereas if you are on stage, if you're in a choir, if you're a singer or a musician of most forms in that regard that play live, that's not how that goes, right? That's you are extroverted to some level if you perform live, and that often coincides with people also having at least sometimes having high opinions of themselves. Those kind of things can obviously shift, and you can be incredibly overconfident about yourself in one moment and then go back to hating yourself once you're off stage or whatever. Those things can obviously vary highly, but there has to be something there. Otherwise, you would not go out in front of people and put yourself there, I think.
Also, people are people. They'll do really bad things sometimes, Or at least that's what I've noticed.
The Vector dude is iffy. You're right there, but like, holy shit, great band. Like musically, holy shit.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like H.P. Lovecraft or some of his stories. Like, man, it's good, but then you're like, man, like you're so mean to Jewish people. What's wrong with you, man? What did they do to you? I know it was kind of how he was raised and all that, but that doesn't justify it. But that's just kind of
no. H.P. Lovecraft was racist beyond the average at the time.
Well, I know that, but I'm just saying, like, I know
He's
part of
also
that
weird.
was. I know even
Yeah.
then there were some people who were like, "Damn, dude, like, calm down."
Certainly.
All right, do your thing, Jason. So Malazan. I'm gonna read that at some point. I don't know when. It's just. Oh, you want? I'm sure Slay, you already know this, and I am not a black metal aficionado by any stretch of the imagination. But there's a guy named Varg. I forget it's like Vicness or something. Raph knows. He's like, oh shit. But that dude like murdered a guy, like stabbed him like 25. Or like he stabbed him like 20 to 25 times, killed him.
The Varg Vikernes thing is it's complicated.
Which is insane.
Layered.
Like, he also burned down churches. Like this dude was crazy. Like I'm just, oh my god.
To be fair, like the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, Norwegian black metal scene was a very unique situation where you have like a bunch of very, very badly adjusted people, all of them being in their late teens, early 20s, a lot of them taking a lot of drugs. And you have this moment where like a group of people sort of like radicalizes. And there's a bunch of these kind of people all hanging together, and Varg Vikernes stabbing Euronymous to death is one result of that. And, burning churches was another. And there were like a couple vaguely associated murders and other deaths to that, because you have a small group of people all dealing with all kinds of psychological issues before even starting the whole black metal thing. And then this all turns into like the whole radicalization you also see with, say, terrorist groups and using that as a very sort of like vague term, not politically in any way or form, but like you have that kind of thing. And Varg kind of stands out. And then he ends up in prison and being the kind of very insecure, mentally unwell young teenager. He obviously turns into a Nazi once he's in prison. And that's what he is.
So it's not just in America where you can become a neo-Nazi? That's
no, you can do that in Norwegian prisons are some of the best prisons in the world. So obviously they provide that service as well.
No, but like going back to my point, again, I'm not like a black metal fan, but that dude's insane. Like he went from like murdering a dude, then they let him go, and now he's like doing like weird racist RPG stuff. I'm like, okay, you know what? You do your thing over there. I'm just chilling, man. But like, oh god, it's just kind of.
Yeah, John Nutway is another one that
Teabaggins is just when there's snow on the ground, turn to racism. It's pretty good. I like that. That seems kind of where we're at right now. Yeah, man. Like, who is it? Like, that's a thing, though, right? Like, if you're like an artist, you kind of have to be a little crazy on some level, or you have to be like kind of eccentric on some level. Maybe not always, but
not necessarily. I think that
sometimes it feels that way. I'll put it that way. I'm not saying it is, but sometimes it feels that way.
All right, I'm gonna get myself another beer, like one final beer, because it's still deep in the night here, and then I'll talk quickly about that a bit more about it. If we talk about artists being crazy, there's a few things that I think are important to understand that kind of tie into that. But yeah, black metal is certainly one of the more extreme sort of like scenes in that regard.
All right, Raph's gonna get another beer. You're totally right, Slay. You put it very well. You need to be capable of craziness, which should always go into writing, not real life. You know who's a good example? And I'm really hoping, hello, Chance, and I'm really hoping that this doesn't age poorly, but Garth Ennis, he put some crazy ass shit in his work. But he seems like he seems like a generally well-adjusted individual. So I don't know. I'm not saying that at all, Tharnell. Don't go crazy. It's
right.
No, but I mean, there's plenty of things I've said that have aged poorly. So it's That's kind of the rub, isn't it? Um, T-Baggins likes your Ahab shirt. It's a great dude.
Yes, Teabaggins. I also met some of the dudes from Enslaved, and they're incredibly chill dudes. But when you listen to, the music they're making these days, that's also incredibly chill music. They could probably not record something like their first demo again, which
So are you saying they were angrier back in the day?
yeah, of course. I mean, that's what I said earlier with like punk rock as well, right? It's like you are a different person when you're 15 or 16 than you are when you're like in your late 40s and early 50s. That's just like how
Well,
things
yeah.
are.
Like
I
I'm
think like one,
sure.
yeah,
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, fine.
I was gonna say it's probably like that with like Rage Against the Machine. Like they're probably not gonna put out something like or I mean I don't know what you think of Rage Against the Machine. I don't like Rage Against the Machine personally, but
I'm fine with their politics. I don't necessarily enjoy their music.
well, I don't really care for their music and politics, so there you go. That's kind of there you go.
Nah, but I
It's a
think like
no-win situation on my.
with Rage Against the Machine, I assume that they have certainly kept their politics very angry. So I assume that will still come through in their music in some way
The
or form.
Bulls on Parade is kind of a banger. I hate to say that because I don't like their band very much, but like Bulls on Parade, man, that's a banger. I have to admit. They probably would hate me because I'm pretty pro-capitalist, but what are you gonna do? They probably don't even know who I am, so it's fine. I'll give them this though. I mean, they're not like it's not. I don't think that they're just like paper tigers in terms of their political beliefs. They
No,
actually
they're
believe
not.
in that stuff.
Yeah, which I like. Sincerity is something that is really important for that kind of art. I think, especially when it comes to politics. I prefer a politically active and outspoken artist if what they're doing is clearly what they believe in. That's something I can get behind it more than like someone putting sort of political things in there somewhere just for because they feel it's necessary or whatever. So like having like sincerity in general is like really important for art, I think. And yes, T-Bang, it's an Ahab shirt. I bought it like last year. I just love the whole Ahab, and it says all harpooneers are bastards on the top on it, in which I found an interesting alternative to ACAP. Going Ahab just means all harpooneers are bastards. And
There's like I'm not a big like metal fan, but like there's a couple I enjoy, like Blind Guardian, which I don't know
yeah,
what like more seasoned metal fans might, but riding the
I'm a German
channel horn
tabletop
is
role playing
freaking
game
awesome.
person. I have like if you live in Germany and you play tabletop role playing games, you will listen to Blind Guardian at some point, usually when you're 15.
No, I mean like they made some like Elric songs which are freaking awesome. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah.
Like they'll like
Yeah.
just like yeah.
No. I just saw Blind Guardian like a month ago at a festival, and we're still
They
good.
do. I like them because they do like fantasy inspired songs. It's like early Rush, like
Thornall, I do enjoy the early Rhapsody stuff. I have kind of lost interest in them at some point, but I do enjoy the early Rhapsody stuff quite a bit. I do have some old like limited editions and stuff when I still, picked up
John,
every Rhapsody album when it came out.
I don't mind, queer climate change, anti-colonialism, girl boss books, but I want them to be good queer climate change, anti-colonialism, girl boss novels. Like there's a couple bad ones. Well, I haven't read a lot of the girl boss books because like I don't think that would. I mean, well, the closest thing to girl boss I've read is like Gillian Flynn's stuff, which very good. I read Eileen last year.
I do highly recommend Metal from Heaven by August Clark, which came out last December, November, October. It's not necessarily girl boss climate change. It's more queer anti-capitalist biker bandit fantasy, which is, something we kind of need more of.
Like,
So
look,
obviously, climate change and stuff kind of comes into that because it's all all intersectional, but it's very good. It's also like very angry and full of action and people, robbing trains and fighting capitalism.
like, here's the thing. I don't mind, I don't mind political art. I'm sure
Yeah,
one could even make a good argument that all art is political in some way or
yeah,
another.
of course it is.
But if you're gonna write one that'll interest me, have it be good. Like China Mieville, his politics and my politics are about 180% like opposite of each other. Great writer, or you'll take something like The Devil Takes You Home, which fucking sucks. I absolutely hate that book because the politics in it are so bad. But I'm not going to go into that today because I'm not doing that today. But I'll put it this way: if you're going to write books that are political, do it interestingly. Make me think, authors.
Um, yeah, which is why I enjoy Cameron Hurley. Her stuff is always incredibly angry and incredibly, political, but it works, at least for me. But then again, I'm an angry political person, right? So that may help there, definitely. Like one thing I wanted to mention though, with like the art, and especially with musicians and being crazy and so forth, one thing that I've learned while
We're back on
being
that
on
subject.
no, but I think it's important to understand that because there is something that comes with a specific lifestyle, and it's that does sort of also impact that. And that's if you're a band, especially if you're a smaller band, that's touring. Touring. There's a reason why so many musicians are alcoholics or have other drug dependencies, and that is partly the touring life. And I assume that something similar can happen to authors that do like large book tours and stuff, because it's not necessarily a very healthy lifestyle. Not just like no, just like by the way the way it works, right? You spend most of your day in sitting in a car. If you're a band with like a bunch of other people, it's usually a small band. You spend like 8-9 hours driving every day. You have nothing to do except for the driver. No one else has anything to do. You get on each other's nerves incredibly quickly. If you're doing this for like 2-3 weeks, that's insane. Spending 2-3 weeks in the same like small van with the same 5 people gets on your nerves. So a lot of people pick up drinking just to sort of take the edge off and be more mellow, to kind of avoid getting in each other's hair all the time. Quite literally, if you're a metal band. No, and then you have nothing to do. Then you go there. You have like 1 hour, 2 hours of like insane levels of adrenaline, which is when you play your show. And then you just go back to doing nothing for the next 22 hours with the same 5 people in the same small enclosed space. That's not healthy on a mental level. So a lot of people pick up drugs and stuff like that just to cope with that. And I assume like going on like a long reading tour as an author is similar, even though you may, don't have like 5 people in your van, but just like 1 or 2 people you're traveling with. But it's still like a very sort of like high contrast lifestyle where you have like nothing happening for 22 hours and then you have like everything happening for 2 hours and then you go back to the other thing, and that can certainly unbalance you mentally in a lot of ways that can then impact your art. And that can, if you don't have enough of a sort of like support system around that, a social support system, I would argue, that can lead you down into these forms of radicalization in even more dramatic ways. And that's something that I feel with both successful artists, both successful authors and semi-successful bands can happen, because we know that, like, say, success does impact the brain, right? Both wealth and success do impact how our personalities evolve or stop evolving. And I think it's easy to underestimate how that does impact how people act after a while. And that goes for all of our, favorite artists up to a point, because once they've hit like a certain level, that's just like part of being an artist, is also that lifestyle. And that's not necessarily healthy.
Yeah, it's yeah. I don't know, man. It's kind of like how would I put it? It's like, I mean, I've never been touring on any level. That's one of the things. Like, if I get trad pubbed, I'm kind of wary of going around and doing tours and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think it's something you need to figure out if that's something you can handle mentally. I've been on tour with bands like 3 times in my life, when it was usually like a 2-week kind of tour. You're driving around in a van, you're sleeping in interesting places, like on floors, kitchen floors in a squat in Prague with a pet hedgehog, and then you sleep somewhere backstage in a venue and stuff like that. It is physically and mentally exhausting to do this for 2 weeks. Is what I'm saying from like my personal experience, and I get why so many people sort of fall into drinking and other drugs at that point.
Yeah. I'm like, kind of going on that. Last week fucking sucked, man. I'm just gonna say it. Just fucking sucked on my end. It's just not fun, I started class, which, not a big deal. I'm just kind of trying to juggle that. And then the whole Neil Gaiman fiasco got worse, which I'm like, this fucking sucks. I already made a video about it.
I don't think it got much worse if you paid attention to the stuff last year. It's more like, yes, we have like more graphic details, but you didn't need those to know that it was bad what he did, right? Like, does knowing the details where he put what at what specific moment, does that actually change what he did to what we knew, like if you believed the accusations last year in July? I don't think so.
I will put it this way. I appreciate Vulture took the time and like got everything together, and it wasn't sensational or anything stupid like that. I mean, naturally it was going to be sensationalized because of the subject matter, but I'm glad that they didn't sensationalize it. It wasn't like that
compared to the presentation that the Tortoise the podcast did with their true crime trappings. The Vulture article is just like well done journalism.
Take care, Slay. It's always fun hanging out.
See you around.
Yeah, and then David Lynch died, and I'm like, man, that sucks because I like Elephant Man a lot. I know you're not I mean, I don't know if you've watched a David Lynch thing, Raph, but it's just kind of.
I certainly have watched a couple of David Lynch movies over the years, yes. Including the Dune movie.
You've watched the Dune movie. I haven't seen the Dune film.
Oh, the Dune movie is really, I think it does things that the Villeneuve Dune movies do not do, which I'm sad they don't do. It obviously also fails on multiple levels, right? Don't get me wrong. There's stuff wrong with the Dune movie, but it's also so very late 70s, early 80s psychedelic in a very positive way. And one of the things I enjoy about Dune is its weird psychedelic aspects that have been toned down for the new ones.
Feel better, Slay, by the way. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, I'm curious if you, I don't know if you've watched Elephant Man, but I'm curious, since you have a disability, I'm curious if you have seen that movie. What did you think of Elephant Man?
I have not seen that one.
Oh, you haven't seen that one?
No.
Damn. It's a great one. It sucks. I was watching like Twin Peaks. Like scenes out of context, and there's some real funny shit in that. Like David Lynch plays a character who has like hearing aids, and he's just shouting at this lady about black coffee. I thought that was really funny. I was like, that's good stuff, because that's what I need in my life. Ranting about black coffee. I don't like coffee at all. So
yeah. But isn't Twin Peaks in a way also a form of Americana, more like twisting the idea of Americana into what it then, the more paranoid side of things?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what David Lynch does. I mean, I haven't seen like Blue Velvet, but I have seen like Mulholland Drive, and that's all about just deconstructing Hollywood and, all that fun stuff. Which there's been plenty of those, because like everyone deconstructs Batman, Hollywood, and like what else is popularly and Superman. Probably the 3 most like deconstructed things in media,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, in a lot of senses, especially if you're not actually, an American. If you live sort of in the greater sphere of like the American cultural hegemony in a lot of ways, then Superman, Batman, and Hollywood are sort of like three of the main contact points. I think that's why you like people like Umberto Eco in his academic work when he did like more of his academic philosophy stuff, was deconstructing the mythology of Superman. And Roland Barthes talked about that as well. Like when they talk about like travels in hyperreality is like collection of essays of Umberto Eco's after his first travel through North America, and he kind of looks at these elements of Americana and how they inform not just America, but also how they inform like our image of America in the broader world. And in that regard, yeah,
John.
of course,
Take
it's going
care,
to
my
be
friend.
Batman and Superman.
I mean, I don't know what's popularly deconstructed out there in Germany, but I'm talking from America, of course.
See you around, John.
Tharnell goes, "Don't worry, Britton. They're strange even in the context." That sounds about right from the David Lynch that I have seen.
Yeah.
I rewatched Mulholland Drive a few years ago, and I'm like, God, this is freaking weirder than I remember. What is going on here?
I just love the fact that like in the old Dune movie, Patrick Stewart is playing Gurney Halleck, and it's just so funny when they have like the atomic strike and they just like throw themselves down and hold up the plastic bags to be saved from the nuclear explosions. I'm like, yeah, that's a way of dealing with this that you could only get away with in like the late 70s and early 80s.
Yeah, no, I haven't watched the Dune movie because like I've heard it's not.
Highly recommend watching it just to see how a movie can fail while still also getting so much right about something.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, I need to read Umberto Eco too, but I've heard he's kind of like Borges. I've only read one Borges story, and that was very recently. That was
Which one?
It was A Garden of Forking Paths.
Ah, that one.
Which is a fun take on like a multiverse or alternate realities, which I thought was fun.
Yeah. I mean, Umberto Eco was a fan of Borges, and that does show in a lot of ways. I think Name of the Rose is probably one of his more accessible novels. It's fun. If you understand that he is not giving you a realistic picture of the Middle Ages. A lot of people read Name of the Rose and go like, "Oh, look, it's a crime novel in like a medieval monastery." I'm like, no, this is Umberto Eco talking about his philosophical ideas and semiotics while making fun of Aristotle and making fun of Borges and making fun of you, the reader, for not understanding that this is not a realistic historical fiction. It is very much not that.
There's always people. I mean, that's kind of inevitable that authors make fun of other authors, you know?
To be fair, I think like the problem with Umberto Eco is that Eco was incredibly well educated on like insane levels in a lot of different fields when he finally got around to writing his first novel, right? He was in his late 40s or something. He had worked as an academic and as a like journalist and all kinds of other things before, and then he goes and writes with that whole store of knowledge. And he at the time was very good at overestimating the ability of or the educational background of his readers in a popular novel. And you can see that as one of the failures of Name of the Rose, because it's like he goes like, well, I thought people understood what I was saying there about Aristotle. And it's like, no, Umberto, not everyone has read Poetics. Not everyone has read Borges. Maybe they don't get the jokes.
So are you saying that he's really snobbish?
Partly.
Okay.
He definitely had parts in his life where he was very snobbish.
He liked superhero comics, which I think is pretty fun.
Oh yeah, he wasn't snobbish about everything, but he was certainly sometimes. You get the impression if you read some of his like nonfiction stuff, his academic stuff as well. You get the idea that he's a very impatient kind of person. If you can't keep up with him, he gets very impatient relatively quickly.
I will say next month, I mentioned this on Matt's Pub yesterday, so Raph already knows. But I'm hoping to read Guards next month, so I'm pretty excited about it.
That's another impatient author.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, that's my plan is I'm gonna get Raph. I'm gonna try and get Derry. Derry can be kind of hard to reach sometimes, but I'm gonna try. And we're gonna hang out and talk Discworld. Guards, at least. I don't know how much you remember from Guards. So
I remember lots of bits from Guards, some of them possibly even by heart at this point. I've read it like at least a dozen times, so I'm
fair enough.
I'm fairly good with my memories around Guards. Well, Thornell, yes, you're right that not that most people haven't read Aristotle. I have, but I studied philosophy at university, so would be sad if I hadn't. I obviously haven't read all of Aristotle. I read the Politics, and I read part of the Metaphysics, and I read part of the Nicomachean Ethics, and I did not read the Poetics, so I haven't read the book that Echo is talking about. But I've read medieval history and theology in history class at university, so I kind of get the stuff that he's talking about when it comes to the whole Franciscan poverty jokes that he's putting in there.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I haven't read Pratchett yet. I'm actually hoping to, as I mentioned earlier. It would be really fun if I liked it.
Yes. See, Thornell is right that that's a really good Terry Pratchett quote. Like another one that I really enjoyed was when he was asked what was like the best books for an 8-year-old. He was like, pick books for 10-year-olds.
I should note he's not the first one who said that, but that is good advice, though.
Yeah,
from Terry Pratchett.
And you can like in general you can tell, like with writers in general, like you can tell which writers have read outside of their their chosen genre and which writers have not. You can tell very quickly. And yeah, it makes for a better book if you understand how a romance works, even if you're not a romance writer. It helps you if you've read like a couple of crime fiction. It helps you if you've read like stuff.
Yeah, it's I'm really hoping that I like Pratchett. I'm sure I will. I mean, I read the first, because I have a habit when I pick up books, I sometimes read the first couple lines to get a kind of gist of it. And let me just read it out loud real quick if you don't mind. It goes, "This is where the dragons went. They lie. Not dead, not asleep, not waiting, because waiting implies expectation. Possibly the word we're looking for here is dormant." And I'm like, okay, Terry, I see you cooking.
Keep that thing in mind, because he does.
I see you. Okay.
He does in fact use almost the same paragraph later in the book, and he changes one word, and that's important.
I'm like, all right, I see you. Because for a while I was kind of hesitant to read Terry because, one, there's a shitload of Discworld books, and two, I had gotten the idea that a lot of it was dumb fantasy jokes. I'm like, all right, that's kind of. But then I see people like Raph and Derry who are like, no, it's so much more than that. And I'm like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. It seems to have touched so many people. I have to see what it's about.
I think there are a lot of like dumb fantasy jokes in there, but they are good dumb fantasy jokes in that they are written by someone who clearly loves fantasy. And it's like one of the key things about comedy, about good, successful comedy and parody in particular, is you need to love and understand the thing that you're parodying. If you're not, if you don't understand and love the thing that you're making fun of, it comes across as mean and probably also incredibly shallow, because you don't actually get the inherent like comedy that every subject has if you dig deep enough. And that's something that Pratchett gets right. Like he does incredibly good jokes. Even when it's just about fantasy stuff.
Like there was some like Cohen the Barbarian. I'm like, okay, Terry, like calm down. Like it's such a dad joke. Like, come on.
Yeah. To be fair, like there's like jokes in God's Guard, and there's like where he talks about like the gods, like thunder rolled, it rolled a 6. And I'm like, You bastard! Because he's talking about the gods playing games with the fates of men, and there's like thunder rolled, it rolled a
I
6.
didn't get that. That's good. I like that. The
So
illustrious Jerry has joined us once again. She's judging the books. Cats aren't as cooperative as dogs, unfortunately, so she's not as good of a mascot as John's dog, Mr. Pooh. I'm sure you would appreciate it. He's called Mr. Pooh. It's a pug.
Nice.
No, but going back to Terry Pratchett, I'm like, okay, Terry, I see you.
Yeah.
There's a couple lines like that, you know. There's a line like Susan hated literature. She just liked reading a good book. I'm like, okay, there we go. This guy's cooking. This guy's got some.
Terry Pratchett is very, very quotable.
Feelings.
And I think, I mean, or am I misremembering? But I think you enjoy Douglas Adams, right?
I do, yes.
Yeah, that's a good precondition for also enjoying Terry Pratchett, because especially like early Terry Pratchett is very much not inspired by Douglas Adams, but does use similar like techniques, like the whole like breaking the fourth wall, using footnotes to make jokes and stuff like that. You get that in Pratchett, and you get that in Douglas Adams. So if you like Hitchhiker's Guide Through the Galaxy, chances are high that you'll at least enjoy some of Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've heard that because there's some people who get defensive when I compare the two, Derry, but I just know, like, I know they're probably like not the exact same thing, but I've just heard like, oh, there's so much philosophical insight in Terry, and I'm like, there's that in Douglas Adams too. Like,
yeah,
go read Hitchhikers; it won't hurt you.
No. I said like, they are very similar. It just like took like them a while to actually meet, and everyone was constantly thinking that they were copying each other. And it's like, no, we just grew up on like sort of the same kind of stuff in Britain in the 60s and 70s. So it makes sense that we have like similar sort of ideas about things. Like, but yeah, Pratchett is so quotable. Like, well, it's like the things like it's in Men at Arms, or I think it's in Men at Arms, and they talk about like honest men have nothing to fear from the police, and it has a footnote. The axiom "honest men have nothing to fear from the police" is currently under review by the Axioms Appeal Board.
That's good. I like that.
You know, that's where stuff gets political, but also incredibly funny. The way he does that, it's like we all know what you're doing there.
I like that. No, but I'm looking forward to Guards because it seems like something I would like. You know, like it seems kind of. I'm trying to say this carefully to not anger the Pratchett fans, but it seems kind of like a cop show, and I'm like, I like cop shows. It's fun.
Yeah. There's a joke in Guards that took me like 10 readings to finally figure out. It's where Pratchett does like something spectacular, right? There's a scene where they come to the watch the guardhouse, right? And there's an inscription over the door which says Fabricati DM PV and C. Which is, and then it says like, well, Sergeant Colan said that means to serve and protect in an old language. Now, if you translate that very broken and wrong language, and you understand that the V is actually a U, what it says is "make my day, punk."
Yeah.
But you need to translate that in your head, and then you need to understand that the translation given is clearly the wrong translation. And by going like, it says the Cub headquarters says "make my day, punk," and they are translating that to serve and protect, which is, you know, that it's a dumb joke. And then there's like a very clear observation on like how police interacts and does fulfill or not fulfill its mandate in a lot of ways.
Hey, you better not puke up a hairball. Don't you do it. You better not do it in my office. Do it anywhere else, not here. Sorry, I'm talking to my cat. She was going earlier. I'm like, no, you don't. Better not.
Yeah.
We're going to have a problem. No, I was really looking forward to the death stuff, but then Derry and some other Pratchett fans were like, no, don't start with Mort. And I'm like, okay.
I
Can you
I
stop
think
like crushing my dreams? Like I just want to read about death. I want to see what all the fuss is about, man.
death is in every book, so don't worry.
Oh, okay. I've heard
Death
Hogfather's a good death book.
Hogfather's a really fun death book. I personally really enjoy Soul Music, which is another book that has death and Susan in it, but it also has lots of rock and roll stuff happening, which is really cool. It makes lots of like rock and roll jokes.
I'll put it this way: if I like guards and I keep going, I'll be like, you know what? I'm gonna add death in this, and I'm gonna just say screw it to the hater who don't
Yeah,
want me
I
to
mean,
read Mort first.
there's a scene in Soul Music that is like one of the things that Pratchett is very good at is describing scenes, and then you need to sort of like visualize them in your head to get the joke that he's making, and he has that in Soul Music. There's a scene where at some point he describes what is happening in long detail. It sets it up and for like pages, and at some point Death is riding a motorcycle out of the ground through a rose garden and ends up with a rose in his teeth riding the motorcycle. And that's the cover artwork for Bat Out of Hell by Meatloaf. But you need to know the cover artwork he's describing, and you need to sort of like visualize what he's doing in that long ass action scene to realize that for like one sentence he's painting you that picture to just like fuck with you for a moment.
Yeah. Oh, Jared's still here. He says I was thinking of starting with Small Gods. I was thinking of trying that too, because American Gods is my favorite fantasy novel of all time, and there were people who were like, "Britton, you absolute fool! You should read Small Gods," because Neil Gaiman ripped off that book, even though him and Terry were good friends. So I'm sure Terry was fine with it. And I'm like, you know what? Fine.
Small Gods is another really fun one.
Let me enjoy American Gods, damn you. But anyway,
I don't think like the I don't think you can make a big claim that that American Gods is ripping off Terry Pratchett's idea of Small Gods. I would not argue that. Like there is an idea in there that, you know, the more people believe in a god, the more powerful that god is. But that's a sort of like an idea that has been around for a long time. Pratchett didn't make that up, and he goes in like a very different direction than American Gods go in you know what Neil Gaiman does. Same thing goes for like you have similar sort of like ideas in parts of Malazan where you have the same thing that like the more people believe in a specific god, then you know that gives them power. That like you know that.
So, are you saying there's actually a crossover between Discworld and Malazan? Because, like, that'll crack my head open.
Yes and no. I don't. So here's one of the things that is important to understand about Stephen Erickson in particular. Stephen Erickson will always claim that he has not read a specific book that people recognize influences on his writing in. And that may
you mean like with
true.
that guy who kind of is like Elric called Yanamander Rake, and he claimed he didn't read Elric. I'm like,
no, he didn't read. He didn't read Elric. That's the point. He didn't read Elric, but he was only playing Yanamander Rake, and he didn't come up with the sword with a black sword. His game master came up with a black sword. His game master is Ian Cameron Asselmont, and Cam Asselmont had read the book.
If you want to see where Michael Moorcock took a lot of his ideas, you should read The Broken Sword. It's pretty good. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. No.
Yeah, exactly. It's Esselmont's fault for tricking Stephen Erickson into playing an Elric ripoff character.
Aha. So it's Esselmont who's the true Elric fan. I see where you're
at. Elric had Esselmont had read Elric, so when Erickson came up with a character that was somewhat Elric adjacent already, Esselmont, as his game master, just gave him a black sword, and then that character ended up in the novel, and suddenly Erickson got like all these accusations of having read of having ripped off Michael Moorcock. He's like, no, I did not. I haven't. It took me years to finally read those books, and the character was already back then. Yeah, it's Esselmont's fault. But that's kind of the thing, right? When you build sort of like your universe out of role-playing games and stuff, that will naturally involve a lot of people's cultural influences, a lot of people's stuff they have read, and so forth. So yeah, there are certainly parallels between Discworld and Malazan in certain characters. I would argue, a huge parallel between Hood, the god of death in Malazan, and Death in Discworld. They are very, very similar, but I don't think that's because Erickson is ripping off Discworld. It's more that like Erickson and Pratchett probably thought along similar lines for a specific problem.
Everyone rips off something. Like, that's my problem with people who complain about ripping off other things. I'm like, guys, everybody has ripped off something. Like, stop. Just stop it. What is wrong with you? But
I think
anyway.
it's more about like art is always a conversation with other art. That's just the thing. You need to be open about what you do, and you need to acknowledge the things that you are taking stuff from. That I think is the key, right? Taking an entire plot line from somewhere else is maybe a bit not as good as it could be, depending on what you're doing, but you can't. Oh, and I think like another part is very much that often if you have read a lot of stuff, you may forget something, right? You come up with like an idea, and then someone goes, well, you took that from this book, and then you look back at it and go, like, yeah, fuck, I did, but I kind of forgot at the time because I wasn't doing this deliberately. It just happened because I've cramped my brain full of stories, and for the last 20 years, they may leak out even without me knowledge, being aware of which specific story is currently leaking out of my brain. And that's just like something that will happen to artists that are, that write a lot and that read a lot. That's just like, I guess, another part there.
It's kind of a weird combo. It's like this one time I watched a Neil Gaiman interview, and he was talking about a guy named Steve Erickson, and he was like, "Man, I read this really beautiful book by Steve Erickson," and I'm like,
"Oh, that's a dog thing, right?
What the fuck? Hold on, Steven Erickson and like Neil Gaiman know who each other are. This is bizarre." And then I ended up figuring out this was a different Steve Erickson. I'm like, this is fucking bizarre.
Oh yeah, there's another Steve Erickson, and that Steve Erickson wrote a bunch of children's books about a farm dog.
Just like what is that? Threw me off. And
I mean, Steven Erickson is not Steven Erickson's legal name.
Yeah, I know his name's like Steve London, I think.
Yeah,
I've seen him comment on a bunch of Malazan videos.
Yeah, that's London is his. So he published like realist fiction under Steve London, and Malazan under Steven Erickson, which I think is his grandfather's name, because he's got like family connections in Sweden. I think Erickson comes from like one generation removed or something like that.
Yeah, but I'm gonna read Discworld, and I'm gonna read Steven Erickson as well. I got Gardens of the Moon right here. It is 666 pages, so it's a cursed book, and I'll probably go insane after reading it. So
which one?
It'll be fun. It's the Tor copy of Gardens of the Moon.
It's interesting. I didn't know it had 666 pages.
Yeah, if you count the place names and the dramatis personae, I don't know if I probably butchered that. I apologize. He does have a fantasy map, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Thornell, don't worry. I feel dumb while talking. Don't worry. There may be nothing behind that. No. Having the dramatis persona in the Malazan book might be helpful, because it does.
Well, yeah, I mean, other fantasy books do that too, so I'm not like complaining about it, but it's just
No. There are books where I think it's more helpful than others, and Guardians of the Moon does have a large cast of characters that don't necessarily mean a lot to you on the first read, because they become important like book 5, and then you finally realize that the one thing that someone said, the one thing that someone read on a piece of paper that he found in someone else's office was actually explaining the whole plot to you. And you kind of miss that because it's just like some random dude reading a random piece of paper. And Erickson does a lot of that.
Oh, geez. All right. Well, my Twitter is now blowing up because I was making fun of Elon Musk earlier today, because of the stupid shit he was doing at Trump's inauguration, which that's kind of a given at this point. But going back to the fantasy conversation, let me just read off a couple of these names for anyone interested who hasn't, the like 5 people who haven't read Malazan. We have the Eel, a rumored master spy, it says. We have Animander Rake, Lord of Moonspawn, Son of Darkness, Knight of Darkness. So he's a son and a Knight of Darkness. So I mean that's pretty hardcore. Let me see. Let me look here. Dujek, One Arm, High Fist, Malazan Armies, Jenna Bacchus Campaign. Probably butchered those names. I apologize.
No, that's pretty good.
Let me look here. Emperor Kellenved, founder of the Empire, assassinated by Lysine. Man, okay. Vorkin, mistress of the guild, also known as the Master of Assassins. So not only is she an assassin, she's a master of assassins.
Well, she runs the Assassin's Guild, so clearly she's the master of that guild.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I like Sergeant Whiskey Jack. That's what I want to know about. I want to know about Whiskey Jack. That's really my... I mean, that's...
He does show up in the first scene. So
awesome! All right, I'm looking forward to
it. Okay, one thing is like one thing is the high fists thing. Like fist and high fist are just like general and commander ranks in the army. So it's instead of having a general and whatever else, it's like a fist runs an army, and a high fist is like the commander of all the armies on one specific continent.
Raph, I hope you don't mind if I ask you a couple questions when I get through Garden.
No, sure.
Like, because it's probably going to happen.
Oh, of course.
We got Kaladin Brood. Like, that's a freaking kick-ass name. I'm just gonna.
It's also a black metal band.
It's a black metal band. So I guess that
there is a black metal band named Kaladin Brood that has one album, which is a concept album all about Malazan stuff.
We got Jork Sharplance, which is a very more cocky in name, I have to say.
Yeah.
Which is kind of more hilarious that he doesn't know what, or maybe he's read Elric now. I don't know.
At this point, he has read Elric. That's sure.
He'll probably comment down below if he ever finds this and goes like, "No, you idiot! I've read Elric now." But
I'm pretty sure. Like he has read Moorcock at this point. Yes, he said like he had not read Moorcock when he came up with Animander Rake as a character, which is understandable because a lot of angsty teenage boys came up with characters like Animander Rake. Somewhat genetic.
We got Night Chill, High Sorceress to the Empress. Which okay, that's pretty cool. Let me see. Decim Ultor, first sword of the Empire, but oops, he got killed outside of the 7 cities. So we're probably not going to see him anytime soon. Though I hear people get brought back to life in this series, so maybe we will. I don't know.
The thing is also that the series does have a lot of like flashbacks and other stuff around that. It jumps around in time, so...
Oh, it's beautiful. So Mitch is here, and he says Erickson, not Erickson, is a DeLillo penchant sort of dude. If I recall correctly, they are both fans of him. I don't know who they is. I'm guessing like Neil Gaiman.
Esselmont and Erickson, I guess.
Oh, they are. I mean, I'm sure they have to be if, it's like, hey, we have the same name, so we're going to have to, have to chill out. We're going to have to get along here. Let's see. What else? Not a lot of other ones. I mean, Crocus Younghand sounds pretty cool, but he seems to be a young thief. So we'll see.
He's a major character in this book. He's a young thief. A lot of people hate him because he's also really annoying.
We got Quick Ben. We got Sorry, who's apparently a little girl who's also a deadly killer. That's what it says in the dramatis personae.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll probably stop reading names for now. But that's kind of what we're playing with here in this.
I think what's important to understand is like a lot of the names in Malazan are descriptive nicknames. It's the same way, and that's certainly an inspiration from partly Erickson, partly Michael Moorcock, but also very much an inspiration from Glenn Cook, where a lot of the characters in the Black Company also have nicknames, which is, part of the military thing, right? Like people in the military have nicknames. Soldiers have nicknames, and that's just like why a lot of these people, because they're part of the military,
Also, how
have
the hell is a
nicknames.
young girl in the freaking military? Like, does that make, or is that explained in the book?
It is explained in the book in
Okay.
some detail. It makes sense in the book.
Okay.
And young girl is also young girl is
also a
depends on your
deranged
definition
murderer.
of young, is what I'm saying.
So is like she a deranged murderer?
No, I wouldn't say she's a deranged murderer.
Okay. I'm like, why are they letting? I mean, I know people have led children in the army before, so this isn't a new thing.
Yeah, it certainly plays with that whole lying about your age kind of thing, which is a standard trope and a historically accurate trope about like joining the military.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we got Tharnal here. What else? I mean, I'm sure that Terry Pratchett has some fun names in his books. Apparently Carrot is like a big character, I guess. I don't know. Apparently he's very beloved by a lot of the Discworld fans.
Which one?
Carrot.
Carrot. Yeah. Carrot. Captain Carrot Iron Founderson.
Oh, take care, Jared. Have a good rest of your evening. Yeah, it's kind of. Oh man. So yeah, I'm gonna be kind of. I mean, I'm reading. I did read the Broken Sword, which was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and it's kind of my first big pre-Tolkien read.
Yeah.
Some people were like, "You should try the Worm Ouroboros," and I'm like, "I'm gonna wait on that one."
Yeah, it's also a fairly long one, so you might want to pace it out, because it's like twice the length of the Broken Sword, I think.
Yeah,
I would recommend
the Broken
trying.
Sword was a very tight read, I have to say.
I would recommend, if you enjoyed the Broken Sword, I would recommend Three Hearts and Three Lions, which is another Poul Anderson and a really fun one.
Yeah, I'll have to pick that up at some point. I know that Michael Moorcock really likes that book as well, and also apparently like it was a big inspiration for D&D. Apparently,
it is very much an inspiration for D&D in a lot of ways. Yes, yeah, no, it's a fun book. It's the book that we need to blame for all the dwarves speaking Scottish ever since.
Oh man. Like, but my other like big ones are King of Elfland's Daughter and Blood of the Mist, which I have over there, but I don't want to pull it out at the moment.
Both are good books, really good books.
Yeah, one of my, I don't love the copy of Blood in the Mist I got, but
I know
do have
it has a super small font, but does it have the Neil Gaiman introduction?
No, it does not. Fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not sure. Now my King of Elfland's Daughter copy does. So,
you win some, lose some, I guess.
Well, I'm not one of those types who gets offended by the very presence of an author if they do something bad or stupid.
I mean, also it's like Lot Dunsany and Hope Merleys have been dead for decades at this point. It's not like their choice to have Neil Gaiman introduce their books, right? It's like, who are you going to blame there?
Yeah, it's.
I felt real bad in that regard. I felt really bad for Nalo Hopkinson last year, because Blackheart Man, when it came out, had a Neil Gaiman quote on the cover of the print. Yeah, had a Neil Gaiman author quote on the cover, and that book came out like second week of July, like right after the podcast dropped and the accusations first came up. It's like, that's like just like really, really bad timing, because she obviously didn't know about any of that beforehand. The whole thing, and suddenly the thing you thought was like a really good marketing thing, having a Neil Gaiman quote on it and all that, just falls back on you, the author, who probably had like nothing to do with this at all, and you have like your first print run out, and they changed the quote on the ebook cover and the audiobook cover relatively quickly, but like the print run is out there.
That I always feel mixed when stuff like that happens. I'm just like, man, what's that going to achieve? Nothing. It doesn't change what happened, But yeah, I'm sure there's some explanation that someone will be like, Britton,
I
you
mean,
dumb idiot.
I think like the problem is more that there are people who are going to be so angry at Neil Gaiman in that moment that they won't pick up a book that has a Neil Gaiman quote on the cover, which is unfortunate because that's not necessarily the author's choice to have that quote on there. They probably, especially when this happens right around that moment, right? They don't have any chance to sort of react to this before the books get out. They're on exactly the same day. It's just like really bad timing, and
it just really sucks in general because think of all the books that Neil Gaiman talked about in blurbs that probably no one would have read if not for him. So I mean, I don't know if that undoes all the good work he did there, but it just sucks,
The thing is, both things can be true. He can be an absolute monster and still have an incredibly good taste when it comes to books.
I wouldn't use the word monster carelessly, but yeah, I mean that's what he did was really wrong. I'll just stop there. I'll just stop there.
No, you can be a bad person and have a good taste in art. That's just
there we
the
go.
problem.
There we go. That's better. that assuages my my tender feelings.
Yeah. So that's the problem there. But
it's like, oh god, I mean, hell, in my guards copy, fucking Terry thanks Neil Gaiman in there. So you're just gonna take that out because Neil Gaiman did something that was really unethical? Like, come on. But whatever.
Yeah, I think someone mentioned that there was someone who said that later in life, Terry Pratchett said he wished he had never collaborated with Neil Gaiman, but didn't go into any more details. So could have been that writing Good Omens together was really annoying at some point. I don't know, and it feels like unnecessary to me in that that's not going to change anything at this point because we don't know enough detail. And if you feel that you need to put out these quotes to save your appreciation of Terry Pratchett, that's kind of putting way too much power in the hands of Neil Gaiman at that point, right?
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like when people were like, "Oh, so did Terry know?" I'm like, probably not. I mean, you think Neil Gaiman's just gonna fucking go out and be like, "Yep, I kind of canoodled with these women, and may not have said yes." It's like there's such a lack of benefit of the doubt there. That's kind of disgusting to me.
That is true. All right, Britton. I made the mistake of checking the time.
Yeah, I've been here for almost. Man, you get going, man.
It's 3 a.m. I should probably go to bed.
You should probably do that.
Definitely.
But thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate
no worries, man. Always. Always fun hanging out with you, man.
Oh yeah.
And once again, congratulations for doing this for 100 episodes. That's a lot.
I know. It's a lot of work, man. I'm not just saying that to brag or anything, but it's hard work, man. I mean, you do Marxist monthly malcontent, and I mean those are live streams, but those take a lot out of you, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Anyway, I don't want to assume things.
No, I think they do. It's one of those things that you recognize afterwards. When I do a live stream, often afterwards, I need an hour to just come down again because there is a level of adrenaline going on while you're doing a live stream, interacting with people on the internet and all that stuff. That takes a while to sort of calm down afterwards in a lot of ways. It doesn't necessarily take a lot of preparation. It's more I think it's physically exhausting in a way that you only realize afterwards, I think, for me.
Fair enough, but no, seriously, if you need to hop off, you can. I want to hold you.
It's 3 a.m. and I have to go to a concert tomorrow and interview a band and then watch 5 pagan metal bands from the early 2000s.
Sounds fun, I think.
It's definitely fun in some regard, but it's also not exactly, it's physically exhausting to do that as well, right? Is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, have fun for the rest of the night, and see you around somewhere, I guess.
Sure, I'll probably be around when you do your sprints if you're still going to do that today or tomorrow.
I've set my alarm, and I'll figure it out when I hear the alarm and how I feel at that point.
Fair enough.
All right. See you around, man.
All right, you take care.
Yep.
And now Raph has left. Hello, Jason. We were just talking about well, not you, but we were talking about Malazan though, so that's always fun. And we were talking about Discworld as well, so it's also fun. And Neil Gaiman, because Neil Gaiman's a topic right now. It's like, man, I wish authors that I like were well-adjusted individuals, but it's all good. Yes, of course, your favorite. We know it well. Yeah, so probably gonna hang out here for another little bit and then probably get off. But it's another. Yeah, it's just kind of. Not really a lot going on this evening. Well, there is the college football national championship that's coming on. I don't know when that's going to be actually. Well, we talked about black metal, and we talked a lot about Neil Gaiman and Malazan and Discworld and other fantasy sagas. We even talked about the Broken Sword a little bit because I completed that last night, and it was pretty good. Better than Lord of the Rings? No, but I enjoyed myself. So that's what matters at the end of the day. And we also talked about a video I saw earlier today called let me find it again because again I'm just forgetting all of a sudden. Your Favorite Author is Not a God by Tori Talks, which was pretty good and had some interesting things. And I wanted to make a video kind of similar to that, just about negative reviews and not authors not hitting out a banger every single time. Because I know very well about that. I read Absolution last year before the end of the year, and well, wasn't cash money, as Jimmy from Fantasy Network would say. Just kind of exists, Isn't that the one with his Conan kind of XP? I am actually writing one for Goodreads. I would like to review The Broken Sword at some point, though. I don't know when, so just kind of keeping that up. But I did start writing one for my Goodreads last night. I'm going to tweak it a little bit and then put it up. And then after that, I might do a video review. But I'll put it this way. I really respected it. I really respected what it did, and it did what it did very well. Is it better than Lord of the Rings? No, I don't think so anyway. I think a lot of that is just because Michael Moorcock doesn't really care for Tolkien. And I mean, hell, if that's his way of getting people to read it, I kind of said it in my review. If that's his way to get people to read it, I won't begrudge him. I won't begrudge him that. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I remember I was reading it. I'm like, I can see why Jason doesn't really like it. There's not really a lot of that. Like, there's not a lot of internality. There is a little bit, but like, there's not a lot of it. And also, it's very like melodramatic, kind of Robert E. Howard style, melodramatic. Actually, if you because he was inspired by Robert E. Howard. But yeah, I'm also beginning. I like Essex County at the moment. I'm actually hoping to read some more of it when I get off of here. Because I haven't really done a lot of reading today. Even though I was off today, I didn't really have a lot of time to read or do anything like that because I've been doing other things. And yeah, I forgot to mention this, but I started my next Koba book, which is fun. I need to edit the other one, but the second one is coming along. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's like you could go into like the standards were different back then, but I don't really like those arguments. It's too much. It's too slippery, you know. I generally read 60 pages a day. Now with comics, I generally like to read them all the way through because, they're easier to read all the way through because I mean, they're comics, You can literally just flip through them and, you'll be fine, right? You can just flip through them and you can understand what's going on unless it's like an Alan Moore comic where you kind of have to read it. You have to like sit there and read it for a bit. Um I'm liking Essex County so far. Is it up there with like Roughneck? There's not a lot of watercolor, which is unfortunate. I really like when Jeff Lemire plays with watercolor. Um, but this is like his first like big thing. Well, actually, no, I'm mistaken. He does play with watercolor a little bit, like right here. Though I do like when he plays with colors. Like let me get something real quick. I'll be right back. That's good. Who's winning? Oh, all right. All right, I'm back. Like the watercolor in this, I think isn't as impressive as the watercolor in like Roughneck, which I think is one of my favorite Lemire books. I really love the watercolor in this. I'm actually hoping to do a review of this as my first big like year of Lemire review next week. Um, so keep that in mind. But I really love how he plays with watercolor in this. Like, I really love like that blue. Really sets the scene very well, and the flashbacks are like more colored. So I really like that a lot. But yeah, I'll go more into it when I review it. Hopefully on Friday, I'll have it up. But there's not a lot of that in Essex County so far. It's just kind of but are you caught up with Saga? I am actually. Yes, I am. It took me a long. I've been caught up with Saga since not last year, but 2023. So yeah, I'm caught up with Saga now. It's it's really good. I really like Saga. I'm sure you'll also be happy to hear this, Jason, unless you saw my best books of the year. I really liked The Goon. The Goon was a lot of fun. That was probably the most fun I've had with a comic in a while. So, yeah. I really liked. Uh, I quite like. I do like Saga though. So yeah, I am caught up with Saga. Saga's great. It's really um hell yeah, love the Goon. Yeah, I mean it's fun. I enjoy it. It's really fun. Have you tried his other series, Hillbilly? I really enjoyed that a lot. I really liked Hillbilly. I've only read the first volume, unfortunately, so I would love to get more into that series, um, but I like the Goon. The Goon is fun. I enjoy it. It took me a minute because I'm like, man, is this gonna be stupid? And it is really stupid, but it's really fun. Like it's a fun kind of stupid, you know. Yeah, didn't like David Lynch or not David Lynch, David Fincher try to make it into a movie? I saw the trailer for it and it looked pretty good. Um, I mean Clancy Brown and Paul Giamatti are good choices for the Goon and his pal Frank. Um, I Oh, he was involved but not directing. Okay, yeah. I mean, I was about to say it was animated, so maybe he wasn't like. Well, actually, he has done an animated. His Love, Death, and Robots episode was animated. Um, so there's that, which was actually the probably my favorite episode that season. So there you go. I really liked that episode, the one with the seafaring. Um, but yeah, other Lemire comics I'd like to get to. Like I want to finish Descender, which is not my favorite thing he's done, but man, the art in that is so good. Dustin Nguyen is the guy's name. And Gideon Falls, which is kind of his tribute to Twin Peaks. I wanted to finish that as well. Um, I gotta hasn't even been again. My Twitter feed's blowing up because oh, he was responding to Joe. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I didn't say he was. He's fucking hailing Trump like fucking hail Hitler. Like, that's stupid. Why would you do that? Um, yeah, I'm trying to do more comics stuff this year because I was a bit disappointed with my comics intake last year. I'm gonna read some Superman comics as well. So if there's any Superman fans out there, I wish Slay were still here. He'd probably give some good recommendations. So my two favorite Lemire series you've read. Those are really good. I really enjoy Sweet Tooth and Black Hammer. I'm actually wanting to do like a buddy read with some people to get them into comics. Hopefully, Ori, who's a regular on Raph's channel, was interested in doing a Sweet Tooth read along. But if anyone is interested in reading Sweet Tooth with me, you can join in. I really enjoy Sweet Tooth a lot. Let me grip my copy. Because I had them in volumes, and then I sold all those copies, and I got the compendium. So yeah, this is my copy. Really love this series. It's my favorite Lemire comic. Well, Tharnell, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. If you liked those two, check out Roughneck. It's also good. It's not as long as those two. Good. Sorry. Uh, but yeah, I like Sweet Tooth a lot. It was actually my first Lemire, so I checked this out because I'm like, that's weird. There's like a deer boy. I want to see what that's about. And then I read it, and I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Now I'll admit, like, there's a part I won't spoil, but there's a part towards the end where I was kind of like, where they kind of get into like some weird mystical stuff. But but aside from that, I think this is brilliant. I mean, it's one of my favorite like indie comics. Did you watch the TV show? No, I did not. I haven't watched it yet. I'm a little wary of it because it seems like they're kind of softening the tone a little bit. Because this comic gets pretty dark at points. I haven't watched the show yet though. Though I know it's made by the guy who did the Hap and Leonard TV show, which is awesome. I really enjoy Hap and Leonard a lot. So yeah, but Sweet Tooth though is really good. It's one of my favorite comics of all time. As of now, it really best if you ask me. So it's oh man, so good. Yeah. I don't want to start gushing too much on this stream, but it's trying to do more with my my Discord, but it's kind of hard because like nobody's like responding. So I'm just like, fuck, should I just get rid of my Discord? But no, I haven't watched the TV show. I would like to watch it just to see how it compares to the comic. But again, it kind of looks like they softened it a little bit. So we'll see when I get to Sweet Tooth show. But Tharnall, if you're still here, if you want any more Lemire Rex, hit me up. But if you want, you can read Roughneck next. It's really good. It's also just a standalone volume, so you can just read it in like a day if you wanted. And also the watercolor in this is really good. So you know that it's a win. You know, it's a win. But again, I'm gonna make a review of Roughneck this upcoming Friday. So keep your eyes open for that. Um, um, it is very Canadian though, so maybe you won't like connect with the like hockey stuff, but it's a really compelling story about this brother sister duo who are God damn it. What am I thinking? Um Hindered by trauma, we'll say. Trying to figure things out. As a lot of people tend to do. I think it's Jeff Lemire what he does best. So, you know. Like Descender, I like it. It's fun. I like the artwork is great. I do have issues with the pacing and the plotting. I don't think the characters are quite as good as they are in like Sweet Tooth or Roughneck or even Black Hammer for that matter. Gideon Falls is fun. I really love the experimental paneling that Andrea Sorrentino does. Let me see. Also hoping to do his Green Arrow run and his Moon Knight run as well. So I'm gonna be pretty stacked in terms of Jeff Lemire content. But Tharnall, seriously though, I'm really glad that you like Sweet Tooth. It really makes me happy because I feel like Jeff Lemire is not as I mean he's pretty popular if you're a big comic book fan like myself, but like nobody on like BookTube really talks about him very much. It makes me sad because you know it's like this guy like Tori would eat this shit up. Like tell Tori to read Sweet Tooth. Like it has a motley crew. It's weird. It's really great characters. Like she'll eat this up. Like really, I should have recommended this to her instead of True Grit. I mean, I don't regret recommending True Grit to her, but man, now I think of it, I should have recommended Sweet Tooth to her. So spread the word, everybody. Tori, you should read Sweet Tooth and get the compendium so you won't have to like track down all the volumes. But hopefully she'll read True Grit soon. That's a very good book, and I recommended it. So there you go. Let me see. It's what else of Jeff Lemire's have I read? I think that's about it. The new one. Yeah, the new one I actually think is better than the old True Grit movie because the old True Grit movie, I mean, I like it, and nobody quite says "fill your hands, you son of a bitch," quite like John Wayne can. But I think the newer one is just better overall. It's closer to the book. And also it's the Coen brothers. So usually what they do is very delightful. So you know there's a lot of wacky shenanigans, but also like genuinely like intense like stuff as well. So yeah. But yeah. You know, if anyone would do Sweet Tooth, I mean, that wasn't the guy who did Hap and Leonard. I mean, the Coen brothers could have done Sweet Tooth. That would have been fun. I would have liked to see that. Or even, I mean, if they did a superhero product, I would have liked to see them do Black Hammer. They probably wouldn't though, because I don't think they seem all that interested in what's in superhero content. So yeah. Just look at that watercolor. It's so good. All right. It does seem to be quieting down. It's been quieting down for a while. So I'm probably gonna call it for the evening. Yeah, I do still have to read all of those. Slay actually is wanting me and Darko to do a buddy read of Fables at some point, which sounds fun. I've wanted to get to Fables. I've been kind of nervous that it'll just be kind of a Sandman knockoff, but apparently, according to Slay and some other people who like Fables. It is not. So yeah, I'll give it a shot. I do like um I do like The Wolf Among Us, which is the video game. Thanks, Jason. I haven't read much the Magnolaverse because it's kind of like it's ironically enough, it's kind of like Black Hammer at this point. It's kind of expanded into its whole, you know, universe where you're like, oh my god, where do I go? Where do I get from here? Um, um, I do like the Brothers Grimm. Damn it, can't say it. All right, I'll add those to my list. But yeah, I'm probably gonna call it for the evening. Thank you everyone who showed up and wished me well. Jason, Tharnall, thank you, Raph, for coming on. If he watches to the end here, Slay, Sam, Robin showed up for a little bit. John, T Baggins. I saw Mac was here for a little bit. So thank you for that. Jacob Pogue showed up. Josh from Already Overbooked. Liam's Lyceum showed up. Jared. So thank you all for showing up to Britain's Hangout Hour episode 100. And hopefully we'll keep going strong. I do have some good plans for I do have some plans. So it is 8:15 p.m. over there. Go to bed, Tharnall. My God. But anyway, I'm just gonna stop yapping and get back to Essex County. So yeah, everyone who showed up, thank you. Thank you for the well wishes, and until next time. Oh yeah, I should note next week's guest will be Tom Orange. So just in case, we will be on schedule for next week. So yeah, Tom Orange will be the next guest. So yeah, that's all I got for today. Until next time. Bye-bye.